Hey, what's up, everybody? Eric here from Sergeant of Arms. Today's video is going to be on a new product that we're going to release. But before we hop into that, I'd like to thank everybody that's been following, liking our videos, subscribing to our channel. That lets us know that you all are liking the content that we're putting out. We are seeing the recommendations; those are being put on the list of videos to come. So we're not ignoring. It's just we've got a lot of other videos that we're working on too. So we will get to what you're asking for. Just give us a little bit of time. But other than that, I'd like to say thank you all to everybody that's tuning in and watching our content that we're putting out. So as many of y'all know, the 6.5 or this company started with the 6.5 Grendel. That was the caliber that we really took hold of and started playing the precision AR game with and long range precision shooting with ARs. So we've been with the Grendel from the start of this company, and I was playing with the Grendel before the start of the company. So I've seen the problems with the reloading. Mainly the Grendel belt is what it's called. Moved on to the 6 arc, still seeing the same thing. And with just the release of the 22 arc this week, gonna see the same thing probably out of it as well as you. The PPC has the same problem, stuff like that. So we've been trying to figure out for a while how to fix this issue. First, you got to figure out what causes the issue, not only from a gun side but from a reloading side. And once we figured that out, we were able to start troubleshooting that and coming up with a solution. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So this is the Sergeant of Arms Belt Buster Prep Die, and call it the Belt Buster because that's what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to stop that belt from happening. We've ran it through single stage presses, progressive presses, all kinds of different types of presses, and to make sure that it works across all of them, and it worked perfectly fine. It's not very hard to set up, really easy to set up. We will have instructions with this, so it's not very hard. But let's, I've got my phone here. I normally don't do this, but I've got a lot of data to go over on this die and things that we've tested. So let's start with what causes the belt. So we're going to start on the gun and ammo side of the house. So if your broach angle or the angle for the chamfer on your barrel is cut in too much, that leaves too much of the case unsupported, that can cause it. Overpressure and unsupported rounds. So when your gun's overpressure or your case is overpressure, your gas gun is trying to rip out that case before it's time. So basically, you still have pressure in your barrel. It goes to pull that case out, unsupports the backside of that case, and that causes the belt. Overgassed or out of time rifles will do the same thing. So not just an overpressured round, but if your gun's not timed right or tuned right, you're getting the same thing happening. You still have pressure in the barrel, case is not released from the chamber walls, and you're trying to pull that case out before all that pressure is gone, which causes the belt to happen on that back side. Another thing is that can be completely out of our control as shooters and reloaders is weak brass material. So if a company got hold of some brass that was a little weaker than it should have been or what it was spec'd to, which we all know happens, even with the good brass out there, that will cause it to happen too. It just will not handle that much pressure no matter what you do to it. So on the reloading side, we'll talk about what's causing this. So when you're trying to push the shoulder down and squeeze the case wall at the same time, that's what's causing this basically. So you're moving the body and you're moving the shoulders, which causes the belt to happen. If you move your body more than 6 thou, that's when, if your case gets more than 6 thou wide, or of what it should be, that will cause the belt. Or if you have a die that, say, is a 4.35 and you weren't even over pressure on your case, but it went to a 4.41, which is where it should be, that will cause that belt. You'll be running right up there on that ragged line of causing that belt to happen, and you didn't do anything wrong. It's just the die. So this die will shrink these shrink the case head, or the case webbing, actually, I guess you would call it, down to about a 4.39 to 4.40, somewhere in there, which will allow pretty much all your dies out there to work really well with it. Not all dies are created equal. And if you've been reloading long enough, you know that. And not all dies are the same as far as like dimensional wise. So we ran this for 6.5 Grendel, 6 arc, and 22 arc. So the Redding 6.5 Grendel die had an opening of 0.438, which we had on our first run of 100. We had 0 belted cases. We upped the pressure on the brass to see how much bigger we could get it to go, and if we'd still belt it. The next one we had 14 out of 100. The next die we tried was a RCBS Matchmaster, which had an opening of a 0.4355, which is a pretty small one. Out of the first 98 that we did, we had 1 belted case. Up the pressures again, see how much farther we can push this. Got 8 out of 100. The RCBS small base die, which is a 0.434 opening, so even smaller. The first 124 we did, we couldn't save 2 of them. And then, once again, up the pressures, we had 87 and we belted 32 of those. So the RCBS small base, because it's so small, we couldn't. I mean, it was really hard to save a lot of those because, even if you get it to a 0.440, you're right there at that 6 thou mark, and that's where that board, you start running that ragged edge on being able to save that brass or not. The Hornady die set, the non-bushing, just the regular die set, was a 0.434. That was 3 out of 100 and 18 out of 110. So kind of the same thing with the RCBS small base. We have 2 of the Hornady die sets. One of them's a 0.434 and one of them's a 0.437. The 0.437 is my personal one. I've never belted a case with it at all. So next going down was the Hornady bushing die, which is the smallest. It was a 0.432 opening. 3 out of 280. This was for the 22 arc. 3 out of 280 and 33 out of 92. So as you can see, when we ramp that pressure up and really push the wall of the case body out, we end up getting more rejected cases that belted. Then we decided to get some expensive dies. So we went to the Whitten full length bushing die. That opening is a 0.4365 out of the first 1,520. This was for 6 arc and 22 arc. We did 0. Out of the next 198, which were out of timed and higher pressure, we had 7 out of 198. Then we went to an even more expensive die, the Short Action Precision, which has an opening of a 0.4382, had 0 out of 479 and 2 out of 125. So there's still failures. Always going to be, no matter what, if you're pushing it hard enough or your gun's a little out of time, or you move that case webbing more than biggest was 0.4465 that we could get to go back to right. So you're looking at 5.5 thou of case web blowout, and we could still fix it. Majority of those cases that we didn't get any webbing blowout or any belts on, if you would have just full length resized them, you would have belted those cases because they were pushing up into that 0.445, 0.444 type stuff. And if you ran that right through one of those dies, you're trying to move at 10 thou, you're going to belt it every time. So this die has saved us a bunch of brass. We have noticed that we've gotten about 2 to 3 extra firings out of brass as well. So, normally we'll get 4 to 5 out of like Hornady brass, and we were starting to get up into that 7-ish range out of brass. So that helped a bunch. Also a little bit more accuracy, or a little bit more consistency on our reloads, keeping the case web the same across all of our brass helped us a bunch on consistency with ESs and SDs as well. So by the time that you're viewing this video, these will be on the website. A link is going to be put in the description. So if you want to check it out, you can check it out there, and you can order them there. They are ready to ship. We will, be posting instructions. So we'll have electronic instructions, and we'll be sending instructions with the die. So you'll be able to have that. We on our we'll have the instructions on here as well. So we're going to hit the reloading bench with Jeff as he goes over how to set these up on single stage and Dillon presses. So until then, thank you all for tuning in. Hopefully you all enjoyed this video. Hopefully you all enjoy this die. And if you have any questions, feel free to comment on here or hit us up on our website or give us a call at Sergeant of Arms. Till then, see y'all on the range.
Alright guys, this is going to go over setting up the belt buster on a Lee APP press. The whole point is it doesn't matter how much money you spend on your press, the belt buster still really does save you a significant amount of money when it comes to belting these, or stopping the belting of these cases. All I'm doing is sticking it in. It's not quite set up, so we'll go through that. Pull it in. There we go. We got our first case in place. We're going to pull all the way down. There is a gap between the die and the shell plate holder. You want to get rid of that gap with a case in place. So I just screwed it down far enough to where it would bottom out with the bottom surface of this die and the shell plate. And then I can kind of run it however I want. It doesn't really matter on time. That's kind of how you set up the belt buster with an APP press. Alright, this is a close-up video on how to install the belt buster die. If you notice, this is loose, it's not set up, it's just kind of there. There's no places for wrench flats on this because the intention is for you not to just go ahead and torque it down as hard as you can. This die really isn't that picky so long as it's bottomed out on the shell plate. So that's kind of what I want to show you right now, is how to properly bottom out this die on a progressive, and just kind of walk you through that real quick, easy process. So I'm going to stop a little short of the same depth here because I don't want to impede the shell plate as it's moving up with the die. I do want to take a looped cartridge, put it into the actual sizing die, close, just kind of snug that up. So with the shell plate in the upmost position, I'm just going to torque this down on top of it. Now that I have that tightened down on that shell plate, all I have to do is run it. That's it. As long as you can't see daylight between the bottom of this and the shell plate, you're good to go. There's no measurements, there's no craziness to it. You can just bottom it out and go for it. If you set it up right, you won't even have to move your sizing die.